Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Observable Flutter. I'm your host, Craig Labenz, and today we're going to be peering deep into the world of widget previews and design language standardization, and I think change previews as well, if I've read the marketing materials correctly. We're talking about Widgetbook today with its CEO and co-founder, Lucas. But remember, folks, this is the Flutter community. We're here to have a great, healthy, constructive conversation about technology. So I know you all know how to do it. Today's guest, previously teased, spoiled my own punchline. I'm very excited to have Lucas on the show today. Lucas, a good friend of mine. We've enjoyed wonderful rooftop views in Paris together before, literally. And yeah, Lucas, I'm very excited to have you here today to talk about Widgetbook. Would you like to say a few words to introduce yourself?
Hey, awesome. Thanks, Craig, for having me. As you already said, I'm Lucas, co-founder and CEO of Widgetbook. Already got in touch with Flutter very early in 2019. My today co-founder, CTO, Jens, told me all about it and was very happy to hear about it. And then, stick to it ever since.
So what was Jens's sales pitch to you? How did he describe Flutter back in 2019?
Yeah, so I think Jens really didn't have to say too much. So I had a project back then. I had a customer that I built a web app for, and the customer wanted to have a mobile app as well. And then I tried React Native, didn't work too well. Then stumbled into Jens, and Jens was like, "Hey, Lucas, there's also Flutter you could check out." And back then I didn't hear about Flutter, to be honest. And Jens basically said it's React Native, but in better. You have hot reload and quite back then already quite active, very supportive community. And I was like, yeah, why not? Let's try it. It worked really well.
Yeah, I think a lot of folks' route to Flutter, it does go through other cross-platform frameworks. I have never written a line of React Native in my life, but I love React. I used React on the web for many years before switching to Flutter in general, because I wanted to get into mobile development and not web development. But for me, the previous technology that I used before Flutter was Xamarin, because I had also been messing around with C# through Unity at the time, because the main thing that I really wish I was a game developer. That would be very fun. And so yeah, Xamarin was the last one I tried, and then ultimately found my way to Flutter through that as well. So Jens, you're now co-founder.
Yes.
Pitched you 5 years ago on using Flutter. Did you already know? Were you just kind of tech buddies, coworkers, something? Like, I presume the idea of Widgetbook came later. You weren't looking to build component book or something.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, the story is I actually have a commercial background. So I studied business, but then fortunately, during my studies, I was always really into entrepreneurship and building startups, and so really like straight during university, I built my first company together with a corporate enterprise. Was responsible for sales, but then we also needed a web app at some point. And I was like, okay, we don't have a developer on the team. And I just bought a Udemy course just for myself to teach myself how to code. And I really liked it. And then I was fortunate enough to take that over and just did more and more. And honestly, I have to say, I'm not the best developer. So very fortunate to have a team that is way more experienced than I am. But I definitely get things done. And then on the web, I always used Storybook.js. So I don't know which folks here on the chat are coming from the web development world, because Storybook.js is one of the most popular open source tools in the JavaScript ecosystem. Really popular, for example, for React, or in the end, any other front-end framework for JavaScript. Then when I switched to Flutter, as I said, fortunately, I have a team that is a lot better versed in Flutter than I am, but I always try to stick to those tools that I know. And then I noticed, hey, there's no storybook solution for Flutter, so why not build it? And then Jens and me first built it just for ourselves. And then we went to other local meetups. So we are coming from Germany, and went to other German Flutter meetups, and basically talked to them. And we're like, hey, we have this storybook solution that we built for us. And they were like, amazing, we know it as well. We're coming from a web development background as well. And they were like, yeah, sure, let's open source it, make it publicly available for everyone. And because in Flutter, as we all know, everything is a widget, we called it Widgetbook.
Nice. All right. Yeah, I love that. I love that origin story for the company. I actually had never used Storybook.js myself. Do you want to say hi to a few folks here? We've got people from kind of all over the world, which is
Nice.
my great pleasure to say is kind of becoming standard. But Brazil, hello. Morocco, hello. España, India, Colombia. And one thing I also want to say to our Indian audience, last week was Diwali, and y'all said happy Diwali in the chat, and I meant to come back to it and acknowledge and forgot. And I'm a week late now, but happy Diwali plus 7 days. Sorry, that was on me. Greece, UK. All right. I'm not going to click any more places. Thankfully, there are a lot of countries, and I'm happy that you're all here from them.
Nice.
So you decided you were going to found Widgetbook. You built it, or you decided you want to implement the idea of Storybook.js in Flutter.
Yes.
You built the solution for yourself. You open sourced it. For those like myself who have never actually used Storybook.js, kind of what were you doing in Storybook.js? What could you not live without in Flutter?
Exactly. So mostly three things. First of all, what you can use any storybook solution for is you use it, first of all, as a developer to create a catalog or an overview of each and every, in JavaScript we call it components, and Flutter is mostly referred to widgets. So you can easily create an overview of all of the different widgets that you're using in your app, and in the end have this overview available for you. And therefore, Craig, you will never again have to think about, did I already build this widget? Does it already exist in my app? So you will never end up duplicating any widgets. And then secondly, what you're doing is you're using a storybook solution to build your components, or to build your widgets in isolation. Meaning you do not need to care about the entire screen surrounding your widget all the time. And it's just, on the one hand, it's just quicker to build your widget in isolation because you don't need to care about the surrounding screen. And it's a lot quicker to also test your widget than in all the different configurations, because in the end, it's like a sandbox. So you have a very quick way of testing the different configurations, like different device sizes, so responsiveness, different themes, different languages, and pretty much all the different configurations that you care about for your widget. And that's why it's already a great developer tool for us. And then the third reason for it is it allows you then to also share your components, your widgets, very easily with the entire team, because everyone on the team who is also usually not able to easily start a Flutter app or a simulator can then just see your hosted widgetbook somewhere.
Oh, right. The non-developers, the designers,
exactly.
Right.
QA testers, product managers. In the end, sometimes
yes.
Also agencies use it to showcase it to clients, what they already built.
Yeah, gosh, that's such a great point, and one that I'm generally prone to overlook, the need to include folks on the team that don't have an active, up-to-date development environment. As someone who does have an active, up-to-date development environment, it's very easy for me to forget the need that the designers will have, and just how painful it is for them to maintain a development environment, which is always changing. And their experience would be, I haven't looked at this for 2 weeks. I didn't change anything, but it doesn't launch again. I'm always troubleshooting this. every time I try to turn it on. So yeah,
I mean, they
super
would
fun.
just never do it. So
Right.
I mean, living in the real world, designers, the only thing that they interact with is usually our mobile app, and that's about it. And then
And Figma.
yeah, I mean, of course in Figma, but in the end, Figma is not shipped to the client, right?
Yeah.
So designers, of course, care about the implemented UI as well. But
Yeah.
for us as developers, it's really difficult to get them in the spot of really reviewing what they should really review, because they never need to review the entire app. They only need to review what you just changed, what was the latest feature
Mm,
that you added. And for us as developers, we can then, of course, tell them, hey, check out this screen. That's how you get to it. And then the designer needs to go
yeah.
through the entire app to get there. And then if
Right.
there's any issue with it, what does the designer do? The designer then takes screenshots of the app. Then they might send you those screenshots via Slack or other messaging services and scribble comments to it. And you will just have countless iterations on that process.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's all so valid. And one thought I was thinking about here is I presume you must have, and we can get into it whenever you're ready to start actually looking at Widgetbook. But I presume you must have an ability to explore the responsiveness of a widget as well by kind of quickly changing its aspect ratio and size.
Yeah, exactly.
One just funny comment in the chat. First time watching live, I tried to skip ahead. So first of all, very happy to have you here, Switch Signs. But secondly, why would you skip ahead through this? We're talking about Widgetbook. But maybe they wanted to skip ahead to seeing Widgetbook. So Lucas, are you ready to begin the tour?
Of course. So I'm gonna show you how you set up Widgetbook in a second. But first, I would love to give you the value just quickly ahead, so that especially here Switch Sites doesn't need to skip ahead. So what we're seeing here is our Widgetbook, and as I just described it, it serves as an overview of your design system, or in the end of all the different widgets that you're using in your app. And what you're usually starting with is you start to catalog your very core components. From a design system language speaking, your atoms. So you would start with, for example, a simple card widget, or a counter widget, or a divider widget. And then you would start also cataloging more complex widgets into Widgetbook. From a design system language, here again speaking of molecules, where you have in the end different add-ons where basically a molecule composes different atoms with this basket card. And then you can also go ahead and catalog entire pages into Widgetbook. For example, this basket view here. And what you can then do is you can catalog not only one, but in the end different use cases of your widgets. So this basket view here, for example, one use case is empty. But another use case could be non-empty, where we actually have already some items added to our, in this case, our groceries app. The groceries app is our demo app, and here in the basket view, we now already added 2 ingredients to it.
Okay, all right. So there's different layers here of visibility into the app, all the way down to the lowest level widget in complete isolation, just floating through space, jettisoned from the International Space Station, now tumbling deep into the endless abyss.
Oh, yes.
But also still in the space station on a page. And I do love the different use cases here where you can pass in. I hadn't even thought about that, but obviously that's a super valuable feature. You can tinker with the parameters that you're going to pass in here. Now, parameters that the widget takes, and this is maybe a depth first question, so feel free to say we'll get to that later. But the parameters that a widget takes are often rich data classes. And here we're looking at, I imagine this is kind of the same problem that like Flutterflow must have had to solve, where when you're building a page, you want a widget to not just take primitive data, but objects, and yet you need to kind of configure that with just drop downs and text fields. So how did you all think about that? And again, we can get to that later.
Yeah, that's actually something, Craig, that we'll just cover in 5 minutes. So I would first just proceed with the let's say with the general value demo before we jump into the code, if that's all right.
All right. I promise to not ask any more implementation until you tell me that I can.
Amazing. Cool. So basically, once we understood now that you can easily catalog each and every widget of your Flutter app here, everything that you then build is in the end interactive, because what we have here is a Flutter web build. So it's not a screenshot or something I'm showing here. It's in the end the actual Flutter widget that is rendered as in Flutter web, and that's why it's interactive. So I can in the end not only see how does my widget look, but I can also test how does it feel, how is the user experience in the end. And as we see now, if I in the end increase the mango size here, the total is going up as well.
Yeah. And I imagine, and again, this isn't, we don't have to talk about the implementation, but this probably means that users would be able to visualize and verify their widgets animations as they change state as well.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay, and basically once we understood now, in the end, you can not only see your widget, but you can also interact with them. Then we have so-called add-ons and knobs. And those add-ons and knobs, I mean, Craig already talked about parameters for your widgets. Add-ons and knobs allow you to test your widgets in more specific configurations. And your add-ons allow you to change global parameters of your entire app, meaning you can test all of your widgets, for example, on different screen sizes here. So I can choose, for example, if I want to see all of my widgets on an iPhone 13 or on an iPad. And quick note here, these are only 2 devices that I configured for this demo app here. You can put in whatever device you like. So you can go really crazy. We have some users that put like small smartwatches into it. Then we have bigger customers that, I don't know, need huge screens in Widgetbook. So you can always customize that.
Is there ability to just say free form where you can drag the corner, or click on the corner and drag to whatever you want?
Yeah, I mean, what you can do, of course. Let's try to not go too crazy.
Do it with the whole browser.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you could do it with the entire browser here, of course. But in the end, usually our users always care about certain device frames that the end users in the end are using.
Yeah, if you're mobile first, then obviously you only care about.
Yeah, but the same for desktop, right? So you could also put in a desktop device here.
Yeah, the resizing the whole browser window where the Widgetbook is running. Where I come from, we call that a hillbilly solution.
Okay.
But it works.
Yeah, I mean, you can do what in the end whatever you like, and the beauty of it's open source, so you can also always tweak it a bit to having it exactly how you need it. And then just to show you 2 more example add-ons that are quite popular for our users is on the one hand locales, so you can easily test all of your widgets in different languages. So for example, in English or German, Spanish, we had Brazilian as well, so Portuguese. You can also we have users also in the Middle East that need Arabic as well. So not only going from left to right, but we also support right to left fonts. Yeah. And you can then also, for example, put change easily your themes, which could go from light mode to dark mode, but you can also use in the end different flavors of your app. So basically not telling what customer it is specifically, but we, for example, have some big supermarket chains that have in the end a lot of different sub-brands, and all of those sub-brands have in the end different themes. And then they do not only test like light and dark mode, they go for, I don't know, brand A, brand B, brand C.
Right.
So you can really customize it.
Yeah, that's super smart. One, yes. I had a great idea that I almost forgot it. Text scaling, is that an option here?
Yes, it's also an option. Unfortunately, it's not included in this demo app here, but you can. Okay. So basically, I think I have it. I need to check. Here are my docs exactly. So I only give you now, like I gave you 3 add-ons now, but with the help of our amazing community, so we already have like more than 2,000 users in our Discord server that have been helping us. So we already have 12 add-ons that are really well supported, and then you can also always define your own custom add-ons. And if you like, you can contribute it back to the package, which we of course appreciate. But we, for example, have a text scale add-on as well, where you could see
Nice.
text scale factor of 1 or text scales of 1.25. I mean, we might talk about accessibility also a bit later on. That's one of the features that customers really like to use for testing if my app is accessible with text scales. And in the end, it's just one line of code that you're adding. So it's really, really easy to use.
Yeah, not too arduous.
Yeah, exactly.
Set up.
Yeah.
All right, great.
Awesome. And so basically with the add-ons, we can test our widgets against global parameters of the app. And then we have knobs. And with knobs, we can really go into detail. And in the end, test widget-specific parameters here. And we are able to dynamically override any parameter that our widget uses. So for example, with the mangoes, currently my input is 1. I have 1 mango in here. But I can dynamically override now whatever amount of mangoes
that's enough mangoes. Yeah, right.
Exactly, that's enough mangoes. And what we're seeing at some point, the moment we add a few bazillion mangoes here, there's an overflow happening. And you can, of course, ask yourself the question, okay, how many of your customers will end up shopping a bazillion mangoes? But maybe the ones that would like to will not do it because you have that UX problem. And then you will, in the end, lose a lot of money.
Could you imagine wanting a bazillion mangoes, but the reason that you don't buy them is the overflow in the grocery app that you use?
Yeah, might happen. Who knows?
I was going to get a bazillion mangoes, but now.
Exactly. Yeah, and in the end, so what we're seeing here is a data type string that is supported, but don't worry, we are supporting any data type in here. So you can, in the end, use a knob for anything to dynamically override, anything in Widgetbook.
All right. Well, you already know that I'm very keen to see how that works later on.
Exactly. I mean, first of all,
do it now.
Exactly, Craig. So first of all, before we jump into the code, do you have any questions about what you've just seen here?
Oh, that's a really good. That's a great thought you just had there, Lucas. Because we've had some good questions from the chat. Randall just asked one.
Mm-hmm.
So also, folks, keep asking great questions. Sometimes there will be a delay between when you type it and when it appears, because I star it and then come back.
And I'm always happy to give room for questions as well after a certain section. I mean, as Craig said, so if you have any questions immediately, feel free to just put them in the chat. But I also always like to give room for questions.
Oh, I'm realizing the scratch on my hand is visible here. My dog dragged me through a rose bush about a week ago, and I got a scratch on my hand. Randall asks, can this work with the Flex Color Scheme and Flutter Adaptive Scaffold package, which are 2 of his go-to packages for all new apps?
So quick answer, Randall. Yes, it does. So the great thing is that Widgetbook is really flexible. So you can like already the solution that we provide you with all of the box supports those 2 packages, but you of course also have the chance to customize it a bit yourself.
And I think this is the only other question to hit right now. Someone asks, is this still relevant when you can use Flutterflow? And I certainly believe these to be 2 completely unrelated products, but obviously these screen, this screen, if you squint, kind of looks like the Flutterflow screen. So how would you summarize the relationship or lack thereof between Widgetbook and Flutterflow?
Yeah, exactly. I think you already coined it, Craig. In the end, these are 2 different products, and maybe because we just started with this sandbox here, it looks a bit similar. But I think latest when we get into the code, we will see that it's in the end very different. But to summarize it, Flutterflow is a tool that allows you to create Flutter apps using a drag and drop, a no-code or low-code editor. And basically you create your entire Flutter app in Flutterflow and then can push it straight in the App Store. While with Widgetbook, you have your own Flutter widgets that you're building in code in your IDE, and you then care about having a design system for your widgets available, so that in the end you can easily have an overview with your entire team about each and every widget that you're using. You can build all of your components in isolation, and you can then share your Flutter design system with anyone in your organization, so that you can in the end ensure, and that is something that we will cover later on with Widgetbook Cloud as well, so that you can make sure that what you build in Flutter actually matches the Figma requirements.
Yep, that certainly matches how I think about them. In Flutterflow, you build whole apps. The flow is like, the flow of state, how the app changes. And this is, it's not quite right to say this is like a Flutter / Figma hybrid, because again, you don't do any building here. But, so, I mean, it's really just not correct at all. But because it's so visual oriented and verification of visual accuracy and whatnot, it somehow sits like kind of close to that in my brain. But
yeah, I mean, what you can basically describe it as, because you use it also during development, as like, and that's a term that I like to coin here, is it works like a simulator on steroids, because with your usual simulator you would only have this view here, right? That I'm just going through with my cursor here now, and you will not have the chance to very quickly change different devices, different languages, different themes. These are all things where you usually would have to restart the emulator all the time. And also with the dynamic data input, you would have to go back to your code, change some inputs there, and then run the emulator again.
Yep. Yeah. The I was just amusing myself thinking about this being like an SGH, a steroid, a simulation growth hormone, or some sort of how you actually get a simulation on steroids. So, all right, we do have a couple new questions that I think are worth hitting real quick. Not even necessarily this, though, maybe this, to generalize this question a bit. Is there a sample project that people can just immediately play with?
Yes. So let me go back to my docs page. So you just type docs.widgetbook.io. That's all. Maybe we can put in the chat, Craig.
We'll do that.
And in there we have the introduction header here, and there's a demo tab that we can click. And once we click on demo, you will get immediately the view that I just had.
Very easy. So,
and also, whoops, don't want to spoil you here too much already. And then you also have basically all the information how you can get started quickly with it. So I can recommend you to then go through quick. So basically, after this presentation, if you want to try Widgetbook, just follow along with the docs.
Great. Well, I bumped the microphone and it apparently wants to get out of here. Okay, that was a great question. Thank you, Salam. There's a question about safe areas. Maybe I expect it does work totally fine with safe areas and whatnot. We'll maybe see that more when we get into code. Question about how you enumerate the UI widgets from the Flutter framework. Oh, I actually misread this question when I first started. But you're probably not enumerating widgets from the Flutter framework. You only care about the widgets that the app authors have written. Is that right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and that makes sense, because as a Flutter developer, we don't need to verify that the list tile widget looks correct. That's someone else's job. But actually ends up being my team's job. It's not your team's job.
But I can assure everyone, Craig, your team is doing a great job there. Nice. Anton is in the call. Amazing.
Yeah. He actually had a cheeky thing earlier. You should update Widgetbook. Apparently, you're running an old build.
Yeah, it's true. Actually, I just noticed. So I mean, what Anton basically pointed out is, and if you click on the demo now, and what we're going to see is that knobs and add-ons are now basically in this order, and my demo app still has add-ons and knobs below each other.
Yeah.
But here, Anton, maybe it's not a question of versions. Maybe I just configured it customly for my purposes here. But no, actually, Anton is right.
Well, that's okay. This is live, super live. And I think we've just proved it. Okay. Lucas.
Yeah.
What's next?
Code. So I'm going to walk you through it. How is it? Should I
bigger
Command plus, or is it good?
Bigger.
I'd
say 2 clicks.
2 clicks? Like this?
I know. Cartoonishly large on your screen is what you want.
Okay. Do we need more, or is it all right?
This is, I think, for folks who watch this on their phone, they should be able to read this. You can do another click if you're feeling charitable.
Okay, well, let's do it. Okay, so first of all, it's really important. You can use Widgetbook in different types of projects. What do I mean with it? The usual setup that we see that most of our Widgetbook users use is they have a monorepo structure, meaning they create, in the end, different packages for different parts of their app. And that's why what we mostly see is that in your app project, where you have your usual lib folder, in this lib folder, usually you have your usual widgets cataloged in there. But what you might like to do, what most of our users are doing, is they create a separate package. And that's why they create a separate folder here in their app where they catalog all their reusable components or all of their design system widgets. And that's why what most of our users are doing is they don't use Widgetbook in their lib folder, but they create a new folder called Widgetbook or called UI library. And in here, they then have all the logic for Widgetbook. And the great benefit is that you can thereby much more easy reuse Widgetbook across different projects that you might end up creating. So talking about Anton in the chat, for example, Anton is one of our Widgetbook users, and Anton's team is creating different apps. And they have one like overarching design system that they use with Widgetbook, and that they then basically share throughout their different apps. And that's what a lot of our customers are doing, and that's why my demo app is also focused towards a monorepo approach. I'm saying that because in case you're not doing it with a monorepo approach, don't worry. You can also use it without a monorepo approach. In that case, you would just use Widgetbook within your normal lib folder. That far as a heads up. And then when we created our Widgetbook folder, the first thing that we're doing is we go into our pubspec YAML file, and in here we are then including our Widgetbook dependencies. And the first one is the dependency for our main Widgetbook package. The second is our Widgetbook annotation package. And the third is our Widgetbook generator. And also as a heads up, we also need the build runner as a dev dependency here, because the build runner, we're going to see it in a second, allows us to basically simplify setting up the structure of Widgetbook and also of maintaining the Widgetbook.
Yep. I think I would have bet basically all of my money that Build Runner would be involved at some point in this process. So
Why
there
so?
it is. Just I imagine you're going to put a decorator on widgets that you want Widgetbook to find or something, and
Yeah,
then
exactly.
some code's going to have to be generated to bring it all together.
Yeah.
That's my guess.
Yeah, exactly. That's how it works. And now I'm going to show you, first of all, how we can put widgets into Widgetbook. And then we're going to talk about how we can also generate the structure of Widgetbook. And then we're just going to see how it all comes together. So first of all, we are going in the lib folder of our Widgetbook. And in here, we then basically catalog the widgets that we'd like to include in our Widgetbook. And let's start very simple here. So we already have our icon, again, already defined in our overarching lib folder. And we could now also use our Widgetbook annotation. We have the folks of the Flutter Day for the German-speaking community here, saying hello to everyone. So greetings from the Flutter Day here. And basically in our overarching lib folder, here we defined our icon. And what we could do is we could just use our add use case annotation here. But as I said, we are going the monorepo approach, so we don't do it there. Instead, we create a new icon.dart file in the monorepo Widgetbook folder. And in here, we're using our use case annotation. And the use case annotation now takes two required parameters. One is the name of the use case, and the second one is a type. So the name here, name of the use case, in our case with the icon, we're going to see it later as well. We just have one use case. So we just call it default. And the type is then the icon, because that's the widget that we'd like to include in the Widgetbook. And pretty much, Craig, as you mentioned, we're using that annotation and with the help of the build runner to then find exactly, okay, that's the widget that we'd like to include. And the only thing that we need to take care of then is we're writing a build method here, and we're then returning the icon, and this icon needs. We need to tell it what icon should be showcased in the Widgetbook, and here we're then using our user icon, and that is how you catalog widgets into Widgetbook.
So at this point, you had mentioned there was atoms, and then those were assembled into higher things. So the use case decorator, which tier does that turn up at in the Widgetbook UI in the end?
So that is just in the end the final
the highest level.
Exactly.
Got it. Okay.
So in the end, those different. If we go back to our Widgetbook here, wait, let's go to. Let me align it like this. If we go back to the Widgetbook, we have folders in the Widgetbook, and by default, the folders just follow. Nice, yeah, that's a German speaking community here.
The call is coming from inside the house.
Exactly. So in the end, you have folders in Widgetbook, and those folders by default, they would just follow the folder structure of my app that I used. So in my app, I have it configured in a way that I have UI. Inside the UI, I have two more folders, foundation and widgets, to basically show you that I'm not talking BS here. We have our lib folder. Our lib folder has about features UI, exactly like here, about features and UI. And then UI has foundation and widgets, and we have here foundation widgets. And then under widgets, we then have our icon. And here we have the icon that we just included in Widgetbook. So that is
great.
The default. We can also customize it. So you can also follow your own path here to make it. In the end, we have, for example, customers that like to, in the end, fully align their Figma design system or the Flutter design system in Widgetbook with their Figma design system. Folks like Anton, for example, they then configured very, very custom paths for their widgets. Also possible.
Gotcha. So you can go your own way.
Exactly.
Go your own way. I'm not a singer. As we all now know.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we've seen. Now wait a minute. Oh, actually, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Can you go back to the UI?
Yes.
Can we revisit the difference between atoms? I think I didn't quite follow. You'd mentioned, there's atoms and different atoms comprise molecules, and there's use cases. Can we revisit the different tiers of, UI isolation or whole screens, whatnot? Because when I asked about the use case decorator being the highest tier thing, I don't think I actually knew what I meant, or I'm confused about something because it seems like an atom to me. So can we revisit that?
Exactly. So in the end, the only thing that's crucial here is you can catalog whatever widget, no matter how complex it is, and you will not use, let's say, a different decorator, as you named it, a different annotation. So it will always be the use case annotation. And the only difference that we can make is, and basically we changed Widgetbook, I think last year around it. So by default, in the past, we would have the icon widget here as a component, and then underneath we would have the amount of use cases it has. But because this icon here only has one use case, we don't showcase the use case to it as well. So only when you have multiple use cases, we basically show you widget or component and then use case and use case, because we have two use cases here. If you only have one use case for the widget, we basically straight give you get you to the widget in the UI.
Interesting. But the thing that we were decorating wasn't a widget. It was merely a function that returned a widget. So like that basket view that has empty and not empty. What was the mechanism that grouped those and told Widgetbook that they were the same?
Yeah, so I can just show you, of course. So let me see basket view. So in the end, we just have multiple use cases defined. So in this file here, we have one use case that we called empty, and we have another use case that we called non-empty.
Oh, and it's that type parameter.
Yeah, exactly. And because we have two use cases here, that's why, we can see it in that way.
Got it. Okay. All right. That makes sense. So that type parameter, does that just take like is the type of the type parameter a type?
I mean, the type in the end is just a widget. So you would just.
But it takes the type of a widget. Like, can you command click on use case?
Yeah.
And then this dot type is a type. Yeah. So the type of the type is a type, right?
Exactly. Yeah. We try to keep it as straightforward as humanly possible. Yeah.
There's an old skit from like 100 years ago in the United States. It's very famous amongst. Well, it used to be famous. It's probably not famous anymore. It's called Who's on First? Okay. And the whole point of it is that it's about baseball, and the person playing first base, his last name is Who. And so one person asks the manager, "Who's on first?" And they get the answer, "Yes." And it's just like this miscommunication about the word being, two things. So this just popped in my head with the type of the type is type. Anyway, okay, so you pass the widget class to the type parameter.
Yes.
And that groups everything in the UI. And then we've got that folder structure, which is providing further grouping. You can override if you want, but this is starting to look pretty good. I guess the next question now is if that basket view, also I'm chuckling a little bit, the phrase in English basket case means like a little silly, a crazy person. So the basket view in the use case make me think of that. But let's say the basket view has a bunch of really rich parameters. Where do we configure that so that the Widgetbook UI can allow us to tinker those?
Yes. So let me give you first an easier example to dive into. I mean, we talked about the icon, and icon only has this one parameter, right? So not too complex. But let's go, for example, with an app bar. And the app bar is already more interesting because the app bar has a required parameter. Like we have to put it into Widgetbook. We have to mock this required parameter. Otherwise, it will not work. Like we couldn't showcase it. I mean, what would you showcase, right? And I mean, with the tinkering, I was showing already here in the Widgetbook UI that we have the knobs, right, where you can dynamically override parameters. And we can define it here in Widgetbook in code. So the required parameter is title, and what we could do here is we could just straight away add a string here after title saying, I don't know, Craig's demo app, for example. But
that'd be a great default for everyone.
It would be great, exactly.
That's what everyone wants is their default.
Exactly. But because some people might want to override it because they are not too happy with the default, we can then use our knobs. So we write context.knobs.string. We give it a label. That label is going to appear in the Widgetbook UI. And we can then give it an initial value that can be dynamically overridden. And in the end, let's see how it looks in the code, in the Widgetbook UI. We have the app bar. Title is the default. We have the knob here. Title is showing as a label. Then we can dynamically override it with whatever we like, right? So we can go ahead, for example. I have to look around my mic here.
That's relatable content.
With Craig's demo app.
I like this app. Man, also, I'm really appreciating how wayward and confused the app bar is outside of a scaffold.
Yeah, exactly. And we can easily see it, right?
Okay. All right, great.
Then
you know what I'm excited to see.
Exactly. So we have another annotation that is important. So we basically have the add use case annotation. The add use case annotation allows us to basically tell Widgetbook, hey, which are the widgets I'd like to include. But then we have the add app annotation here. And the add app annotation creates the entire structure of the Widgetbook for us. So basically how that works is in our Widgetbook folder here, we have a new main.dart file. And in this main.dart file, we have a new run app command because in the end, Widgetbook is just another Flutter app inside your Flutter app. And so you have our add app annotation, and the add app annotation in the end is responsible for generating the structure because we here have our build method that returns the Widgetbook. And what's important in here is we need to tell Widgetbook where do we get the directories from, because the directories is the place where all of our Widgetbook use cases are stored. And you have two ways of setting up the Widgetbook. You can either use this generated way with the annotations, or you can manage it your own. I highly advise you to go with the generated way. Also, because otherwise it won't be compatible with Widgetbook Cloud, that I'm going to show you later on. But also because it's just way easier for you to first initially set up and then also to maintain later on, because all our use cases are stored in here. So as we know, generated code do not modify by hand. So in here, we automatically maintain this Widgetbook catalog for you, and you don't need to take care of that yourself.
You love to read generated code. It's just so delightful. Soothes the brain.
Exactly. Yeah. And basically, the moment you do that, I mean, I can also quit my emulator for once. What you would always do is you run the build runner to generate the structure for you. What is important here? Folks often tell me, oh no, Lucas, I don't want to run the build runner. It takes so much time. No worries. If you have a monorepo structure and you have your Widgetbook folder, you only run the build runner in your Widgetbook folder. So you don't run it in your usual lib folder where you have maybe some other build runner going on. Exactly. So you run it only in your Widgetbook folder. So don't worry, guys. I mean, it's already done as we speak, right? So it took us 45 milliseconds. So quite easy. And then
45 will never get back.
Exactly. Then we're doing our all-time favorite Flutter run command. And then you can choose either you run it on macOS or on Chrome. Today we're fancy. We're going on Chrome immediately. But during development, I would recommend you to go with macOS, because then you have hot reload available during development, which unfortunately you don't have on the web. And the moment that build is successful, we then have a chance to preview all of our widgets in Widgetbook.
Nice.
Here we are somewhere. Where are we? Here. Nice. That's it. Here we have our Widgetbook, and I mean, we just built the app bar, right? Yeah. There we go.
Cool. We got a couple good questions. Soon Lee asks, does using this annotation mean we're doing static metaprogramming things? And we've been seeing the build runner stuff. Now this question came in early in the dive into build runner, so that's definitely a yes. Andres, I'm not sure exactly because I'm illiterate. Also wants to know what I want to know, but we're going to get to that soon. What are some other questions here? Lots of good ones. Oh, well, that's interesting. Does the return type on this function that you decorate always have to be, let's see, actually, I'll read this exactly. Is it always necessary to return the widget which is specified in the use cases type? Yes, okay. What if we want to revert the component with a parent?
I can showcase that, I think. So basically, the short answer is yes, you need to return it, but it can also be a child of whatever parent. So where's my code? There we go.
Yeah, so if you decorate that and you say app bar, and then you just return a text input, or I think we have a random thing.
No, with the primary button.
It will break.
Yeah, we have it some here, for example, with the not with but in the end, so what I'm doing here is I'm returning the card, and the card has a child of a padding. I could also reverse it. So you could, for example, have your card wrapped in a padding, and it would still work. So basically, at some point, you need to return the card that I'm using in the use case, but you do not need to start returning the card. So the card doesn't need to be the parent.
And I presume, but when you say you need to, that's just because if you don't, you're going to confuse yourself and like, what are you even doing? But it will work.
Yeah, it will work, but you will not see the card.
Right.
You will see whatever you return there.
Right. You could return an empty container here. You could return a text field. Like the build runner will run, Widgetbook will launch. You can click on the thing. The random widget that you returned will render, and you'll be confused because you said it was going to be a card.
I mean, the question is just why, right? So I mean, you can do it, but I would advise you not to.
Yeah, this of course evokes thoughts of Jurassic Park. Your scientists were so busy trying to figure out whether or not they could, they never stopped to think whether or not they should.
Exactly.
All right. There was a thing before, someone on Blue Sky, which you didn't see because you're not on Blue Sky yet. Very specific intentional use of the word yet. Okay. So they wanted to have a counter today for how many times you used the word amazing. And I'm pretty sure that counter would still be at 0.
Amazing, right?
Now at 1. But had we had a counter for how many times you said exactly, that'd probably be at about 25.
Maybe. I like to switch the words, but then stick consistently with them. Today I said, okay, I won't use amazing that much, but exactly.
Today's word is exactly.
Today is an exactly day.
I love having a word of the day. That's great. Yeah, no, it's let's see, any other good questions here? No, I think we're pretty much caught up. But one person wants to know, what about React Native? Well, you'd use Storybook.js for that, I presume.
Exactly.
And even more broadly, like, what about React Native? Really, really zooming out, not just about Widgetbook or Storybook, like, what about React Native? I think React Native is great. Certainly love React DOM myself. All right, I think we're caught up on questions.
Awesome.
Oh, Randall, that's so true. Everyone's English is better than my
Mm.
Spanish, which is a shame for me living in California as I do.
Yeah. So then, if there are no more questions regarding the open source package, I'd like to go ahead and introduce Widgetbook Cloud. And the
Let's
reason
do it.
for that is what most of our customers or most of our open source users already do is what I already mentioned in the beginning. They already go ahead and host this widget book on the web, mostly with, for example, they have an S3 bucket laying around somewhere, and they host the widget book there, shared with the entire team, so that anyone in the team, not only the developers, but also designers, QA testers, engineering managers, clients, whoever, has a chance to see exactly what have they built already.
Oh, does that mean that this emits like a Flutter web build that you can put in Firebase hosting or something?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
See, now that we've said that, it feels super duper duper obvious, but okay, great, cool. That is neat.
Yeah,
And then
exactly.
it lends itself to you just doing the, sorry, keep going.
So, and that is basically something that you guys can still do. I mean, you can just take everything that we just covered, right? It's open source, free to use. You can also, of course, host it yourself, and it's still going to be free to use. I mean, you have to have this few storing dollars that you're going to pay for it, but in the end, it's basically free, guys. The only issue with that is you do not need to see the entire widget book all the time. In the end, especially talking about review processes, you only need to review what was just changed. And so that is one thing. And the other thing is there are people that do not want to take care about the hosting themselves. So they would just like to have a managed hosting service. And they would like to have, let's say, more advanced hosting, meaning what most folks end up doing is they just have this one instance of the widget book hosted somewhere, and that is usually the latest widget book of their main or master branch. But sometimes you would also like to see, hey, I have a certain head build here. I would like to access the widget book of that. And of course, you can build it also yourself, right? We're all developers. We like to build stuff also for ourselves, but you can, in the end, also use an already out of the box solution for all of these things. And that, guys, is Widgetbook Cloud. I'm confused with some tabs. So you can either just go, now we're stuck here. No, it's not working anymore. Nice, there we go. So you can either just go to our website, and then you have the chance to either immediately book a demo if you like and want to talk some more with me. You can book a demo, or you can just try it yourself. Both options are possible, but I'm also happy to walk you through it now in more detail. So how it works is I have this example repository here. My good friend, co-founder and CTO Jens, built our Widgetbook Explained repository here that you can also all access. So it's also publicly available if you'd like to follow along yourself. And the first feature that I'm going to showcase now is our advanced and managed hosting feature. And how that works is you can have, so you can include Widgetbook in your CI/CD pipeline and also connect it to your Git providers. I'm showcasing it now for GitHub, but no worries. We are by now supporting each and every Git provider that's out there. So with each and every Git provider, I'm meaning GitHub, GitLab, Azure DevOps, and Bitbucket. And with that, we should be supporting all of them. There are some folks that might use any other solution. If you are doing so, let us know. We're happy to support you as well. But for now, all of these solutions are well supported. And how you can do it then is you have the chance for GitHub now, for example. Jens pushed this new commit to Widgetbook, and we can either straight from GitHub. We can also do it with the Widgetbook UI. I'm going to show you in a second. But we can then check out the Widgetbook build for exactly that commit. So we are navigated, brought to Widgetbook Cloud here, and then we can click on Visit, and then we have the chance to see the entire Widgetbook exactly as we know it from the local build.
That's pretty good. That's, you mentioned, developers, we like to build stuff. We do. But what we really should be doing is paying what is probably a very fair price to have stuff like this taken off our plate. So instead of spending so much time building this kind of infrastructure, we can actually just build the app we're trying to get in users' hands. This seems like a really, I haven't clicked /pricing on the website. I have no idea what it costs, but this seems like a very clearly efficient way to spend a few company dollars. Oh, good question here from Randall.
Yeah, please.
Any thought from Widgetbook? How do you help make testing better if that's a thing?
Randall, great question. I'd like to postpone it a bit because we're going to jump into automated golden testing with Widgetbook in a bit, and then I'm also happy to answer how we, let's say, implicitly make widget testing easier. So sorry, Randall, I'm going to postpone it for 5 minutes.
Well, welcome to the club, Randall. You didn't answer my questions right when I asked them either.
Because first of all, let's talk a bit more about this hosting feature here. Because what we just saw is we have the chance to easily access the latest build, but we can also, with the Widgetbook UI, access in the end all of the builds that ever happened. And in our case, it's a very simple demo app, right? So here we only had a few builds, but so you're taking Anton here now because I know that he's in the call as well. So these guys are building, are pushing new builds every few minutes to Widgetbook Cloud, and that's why you have the chance to not only see exactly the latest commit, but Anton could also go ahead and be like, "Hey, Craig, check out this Widgetbook build that I already published, I know, sometime in the past, and it's still going to be up there and available because I also have the chance to go through the Widgetbook UI, then click on Visit, and then have, in the end, different Widgetbook that I can share with my team as well."
I mean, I love it. These are great features that just about every Flutter development team would probably benefit a lot from using.
Yeah. And what I'd like to highlight, because that's a question that is probably coming anyways, and I'm already basically want to make sure that we answer it straight away, is about the security of Widgetbook Cloud. Basically, what are we actually doing here when I'm saying you can include Widgetbook in your CI/CD pipeline? And the great thing here is, and we also have in the end an entire security overview page that also goes into more detail here, because usually developers are a bit afraid and that we what we might be doing there. And what is super important is, first of all, we are not storing any sensitive or personal information on Widgetbook Cloud, because what we learned is we are only using mock data, right? So we always need to mock the parameters of the widgets. And that's why, I mean, unless you put your user data in the mocks, don't do it, guys. Don't do it. Then we will not store any user data in there because it's just the mock data. And your original source code is in your control and it will not be sent or stored. And to prove that, we have an example here, how you can, in the end, include Widgetbook, for example. I mean, now we're talking about GitHub here, what we're doing here. So what we are doing there to get your Widgetbook hosted on Widgetbook Cloud, we're setting up Flutter, we are running Flutter pub-get, and then you guys are building Widgetbook on your end. You are building Widgetbook as a Flutter web build. So you are choosing the target, and the Flutter web build, you are building it. You are activating our Widgetbook CLI, and then you are pushing the build to Widgetbook Cloud. You're only pushing the build. So the only thing that we are doing on Widgetbook Cloud, we are storing your already built Widgetbook. So we don't have access to your source code there.
Nice. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, just to address this concern very, very early here.
Yeah. Well, so in the past, you were answering questions 5 minutes after we asked them. So this time, I'm going to ask this question in a couple minutes. So you'll have answered it first, and then I'll ask it 5 minutes later.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Craig. Been a pleasure collaborating with you here.
Yeah, in about 2 to 3 minutes, I'm going to ask this question. Keep going.
Awesome. So now we're coming very close to Randall's question, because
just a compliment. I too like getting a GitHub action fully written for me because
nice.
I hate writing YAML.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks. Appreciate it. And the cool thing is, let's say you are switching Git providers. We have it for each and every Git provider, and even entire and different CI/CD providers. So maybe Taha is here as well. My good old CodeMagic friend here. We also have CodeMagic support as well, of course. Yeah. Okay, but coming back to getting closer to Randall's question.
Almost there.
Almost there, Randall. Stay on tight for us.
Stay on target.
So in the end, I mentioned that we would actually, like with Widgetbook Cloud, we want to make it very easy for developers to share with the reviewers, with the designers, with the QA testers, with the engineering managers, exactly only what they need to review, only what has changed or was newly added. And how do we do it? Well, there's already a great concept for that called pull requests. And what is already happening in a pull request for us developers already for years is GitHub and other Git providers are really good at finding out exactly what lines of code were changed for us. Unfortunately, what GitHub can show us is what changed visually. But in the end, our users, they don't care much about the lines of code that we write. They care about the output. They care about the UI UX. Of course, also about performance, but they care a lot about the UI and UX. And that is something that we can do with Widgetbook Cloud. So what we are seeing here is we changed our primary button. We went from a full radius to a non-radius. And the question is, which effect did it have on our app? And again, because we have a great integration with GitHub, we can just straight from GitHub access Widgetbook Cloud, or we can also go through the Widgetbook UI. And what we then see is a list of all the changes from our pull requests. And
this is pretty good.
Awesome. Thanks.
Pretty good.
Why are you saying that, Craig?
Just the visibility, the ease of the value of this, how easily it surfaces it, incredibly valuable. The Flutter framework has, and in fact, you've mentioned something about this to me in the past, but the Flutter framework has an incredible amount of homegrown infrastructure to do exactly this for the framework widgets. And it was a lot of work to make that infrastructure happen and keep it standing up. And this is really valuable. The Flutter framework couldn't be as stable as it is without this. And there's no easier way to get it. I feel like I'm turning into a Widgetbook salesperson here, but I love these features. This is awesome.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks a lot. You're doing great, by the way, Craig. Nice.
Yeah, this is very cool.
Yeah, cool. So basically what we're seeing here is on the left side, and unfortunately I had to zoom in so much that we can't see everything very, very, very well now. But I think it should be well visible for the guys on their phones as well. So what we're seeing here on the left side is that's how the widget looked in the past, meaning that's how the widget looks on the base build. On the right side, we're seeing that's how the widget looks on the head build. So that's the latest build. And for this primary button here, I mean, I don't even need my glasses for it, right? To see what changed here. It's very clearly visible. But the great thing is, because this button also changed was used in different screens, we can also see the different screens here because they were also affected by the change. And for bigger screens, it might not be so easy to see exactly what changed. And what we built for that is a toggle diff feature. So we highlight for you guys, in this case in pink, what changed visually, so that we can make sure, okay, we actually got all those changes.
Yep. Yeah, that's the real, that's super important. One thing, this works until somebody has pink in there is their background color, which would be a bold choice for a color scheme. But I think a thing that the Flutter team's infrastructure does for this is have a third version of the image where all of the same pixels are made opaque. They're all, or no, sorry, literally the opposite of opaque, transparent. And you only see the pixels that change. And then they may still also be pink. And that is, now you're not hunting around like, wait, what changed? But this is incredible.
Yeah. Thanks.
A lot of love in the chat.
Amazing. Appreciate it. Not only pink.
It's funny. I sometimes you're clicking off of a chat bubble, like something else comes in, and it's like I've put a lot of random chat messages up before. So wait, not only pink in the background color though, like to actually, so can you configure the background color? Is that what they're saying?
So it is. So basically, I think where Anton is playing here a bit. I gave this presentation already. I think it was on the Flying High podcast with Flutter. And Alan, the host, was asking me, Lucas, can I change the color? For some reason, he was very passionate about it. And we actually had a use case already of a bigger enterprise customer that actually has a pinkish design system. So it does happen. And they were like, it's amazing. We would really love to use it, but we need to change the color.
Pinking don't work. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like Lyft, if they were using Widgetbook.
That's why. So yeah. So it's something Pascal is up there as well. So that's we can make it possible for users. It's just not by default. So in enterprise plans, we can make it possible.
You go in and tweak something for them.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well, the excitement keeps growing. So Randall's question was originally about writing tests. Obviously, this is like a new form of golden test that we don't even have to write.
Yeah, exactly.
So you have to human review it. Could I configure this to like raise a flag if there were any changes? Is that possible?
Perfect. Great question, Craig. So basically how it works is, I mean, I said before, we have integration with the different Git providers, right? And basically what we're doing in the GitHub pull request is we're running our Widgetbook checks here. And now, amazing, all our checks turned green, but they only turned green because I already approved our review here in the past. I mean, it's a demo app that I've been using for quite some time now already. So it was already approved. But what you can imagine is the moment, I mean, there are pull requests where you don't have any visual changes. So then the check immediately is green and you can safely merge with confidence. If there are any changes, we will flag it. And basically this Widgetbook review will stay pending, and it will be pending for review. And here it also depends. I mean, you can customize your GitHub check settings as you like. But what we recommend you to do, and what most of our customers are doing, is they have the check rules set quite strictly in a way that whenever there are any changes that Widgetbook Cloud found out for you, you cannot merge the pull request. You're prevented from merging the pull request unless you approved the pull request here in Widgetbook. Because in the end, in Widgetbook Cloud, it works very similar to to a pull request in GitHub, can approve, leave a comment, you can just leave a comment, or you can request changes in here. And only once someone of your team approved the review, submitted it, then you're good to go.
You love to see it. That's great. That's wonderful. So the default is that there shouldn't be any changes, and I think it does make sense that changes would have to be human reviewed. It wouldn't really even make sense to be like, no, I know that this one has changes, auto accept them. It's like, well, then you're not using Widgetbook. The whole point was to visualize your changes. So
yeah, exactly. And I mean, it's Widgetbook in the end is like a quality assurance, right, for you.
Yep. Yep.
And basically to answer Randall's question even a bit more specific. So basically regarding testing, right? Basically regarding tests in general, we have this 0 configuration golden tests for you. But that you don't need to write. We take care of that for you. But where Randall was also getting at is, okay, what do we do about widget tests? And regarding widget tests, we basically make it implicitly easier for you to test your widgets, because using Widgetbook is actually a great way of basically ensuring that your team builds this great habit of separating UI from logic, of really in the end building your widgets in isolation, and make it a lot easier for you to test the widgets in the future, and of also already providing mocks for all my parameters. So basically, if you already have the habit of using Widgetbook, you will be already like 10 levels ahead of creating proper testing infrastructure afterwards.
Yeah. So there's only one question that's left on my end. And it was the first question that came from my end. And it is, how do we configure rich data objects to widgets in the preview? If I have a small class with 3 fields that is handwritten, or it doesn't matter how it's written, but just like from my app, and that's the parameter that one of my widgets accepts. How do I do that in Widgetbook as a use case to kind of play with the different UIs that it might render?
Yeah. So in your example, Craig, what is really important is you need to mock the required parameters, right? So you need to make sure that even if you have a very rich data object, that you mock the parameters. As long as you do it, you are totally fine. And to give you, let's say, the mock of my most complex widget here in this app, that's my basket view. We can just check it out together, and maybe that is an example that you had in your mind as well. If not, happy to go into more detail for that here. So I mean, the basket view empty is a bit boring because it's empty, right? But let's go maybe with a view that is already filled here, and where we also have the chance to increase the amount of mangoes. So I have also different states involved. That is basically a bit more complex. Make it a bit more challenging here. Might be fun. So basically and here we can also see the type we are using here is a basket view. But what we're returning is not a basket view, but a basket scope. So basically answering the I don't know.
Yep.
10
there was
questions.
A provider. Yeah. I think I have it starred. But yes, I was going to comment on that as well. It's like, oh, well, there's your kind of provider riverpod state management question.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me articulate kind of, I see what we have going on here. And line 34, yeah, that's where it begins.
Yeah.
Although there is actually still another question that I have, but
Okay.
I guess that's on line 36. Okay, this is interesting. So this basket state class. Oh, so this is not on the widget because that's being passed to the basket scope. Okay.
Mhm.
So like you said, you have to mock whatever parameters something is getting. So if it's a rich object like the product order class, that's obviously an example of a rich object.
Exactly.
This is just a
You need the
function.
fruit and the quantity. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, the other question that I have been wondering about though is like,
Mhm.
are the primitives obviously all data structures eventually cache out in primitive data? Otherwise, like, what are you doing? So, eventually there's going to be like a string or a number or a Boolean or something
Yes.
that is the real data.
Mhm.
And it'd be nice if those could get surfaced in a text input or something
Mhm.
to tweak them live. And we saw the quantity be tweaked.
Yeah, that's what you have the knobs for, right?
Yeah. So
So these
so
are all
your context.knobs.int.input,
knobs.
does that, because the product order class, it just takes an integer. It doesn't take anything fancy.
Mhm.
So that input context.knobs.int.input, that implements int. Like how does that work?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, in the end, that allows us to. Damn, I have too many too many tabs here.
Too many tabs.
There we go. So we're in the basket view, right? And we have our knobs, and
Mhm.
because we have this input here, we are allowed to dynamically override it.
And the could you go back and
Mhm.
command click on the input after
Yeah,
int?
sure.
Oh, so it's a function that returns an int,
Yeah,
but then that it returns, so the int input knob, that's the thing, I think. Does
exactly.
that implement int?
Yeah, exactly. So that's basically the magic behind the magic.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Uh,
And so you have something like that for all the different primitive
yeah,
data
yeah. We wrote it for all the different knobs that. I mean,
can
as
exist.
as I said before, right? We are supporting any data type that's available, so you can basically go on the open source docs again, go to the knobs, see an overview, and here you can see what are all the different available knobs here. So we are supporting any
Nice.
data type. And you can, of
Okay.
course,
Yeah.
also build your own custom knob as well.
Nice. Yeah, that's great to have documentation for. All right. I don't think I have any other questions about Riverpod. I'm gonna scan through the chat again. I don't know much about the development roadmap of.
Yeah, I have
I
actually
think I
one
said
thing, Craig.
Riverpod. I meant Widgetbook.
Yeah, I have actually one thing that I'd still love to
Oh,
showcase. That's
all right.
something that we didn't cover on purpose because I didn't want to make it too complicated. But what you can do as well here with Widgetbook Cloud is you can not only use it to see exactly what changed visually from one Flutter, from basically one code
Yeah, one
version to the
build to
other.
the next. Yep.
You can also compare it to Figma as well.
That's
That's
super
also
cool.
possible.
Let's
So
do it.
let's do it. So I also have the chance to straight from Widgetbook Cloud jump into Figma, and it's already pre-selected for me what I want to review. And unfortunately, I can only share one screen here, right? But usually, the setup of our customers is they would have one screen where they are using Figma, and then they have another screen opened with Widgetbook Cloud, and that allows them to also inspect exactly what have they been doing in Figma, and do the same with Widgetbook, because what I'm also able to do is I can always click on this view build here in Widgetbook Cloud, and then I'm going to be navigated exactly, and it's going to be pre-selected for me already what I just viewed in the reviews. And then I have the chance to basically compare exactly, okay, how did it work in Figma? How did it work in Flutter?
Yeah.
And especially for teams that always strive for pixel perfectness, we have an inspector add-on that allows you to really inspect your widgets further and tell you exactly what's the radius that was used, what's the color that was used. And you can also go ahead and do it basically for each and any widget to set to see exactly what's the font family, what's the font size, height, font weight, and so on. So a feature that especially your pixel perfect designers can use a lot.
That's great. I love, first of all, that looks like it was a pretty intense product to build, I imagine, or at least very fun. But I love on the tooltip where you're hovering, it says 32.8 by 24. So that's pretty good. I love at the bottom 32.8320617.
Craig, I mean, you have to understand, right? We are from Germany. So we guys are serious people. So we need to make sure that you can exactly that you can work really precise.
That's so funny. Cool. And so the link to Figma, there was one really long URL that was in the annotation.
Yes, exactly.
That even my eye was glossing over every time. But with that,
yeah, so that's
it is the Figma link.
Exactly. So there's an optional parameter here called design link.
Yeah.
And in the end, how it works, I'm getting so confused here with the different tabs. Damn. Okay. So in Figma, you can do a right mouse click, go to copy link to selection. So basically, you have to
deep link
think
to
about the workflow, right? So the workflow is design in Figma. Design handoff happened. Developer then creates the widget in Flutter, and the developer can already use Widgetbook to build the component in isolation, because they can very quickly, before they put it in the app, test it on all the different configurations that they care about. And in this process, they would then just copy the link from Figma and put it in their in their Widgetbook.
Sheesh.
Awesome.
Yeah, and you guys thought of everything.
Exactly. And then final feature for the review. So basically what you can do here, right? You can go from the Widgetbook review straight into the Widgetbook build, pre-selected for you. You then have the chance to play around with add-ons and knobs and all of that, to make sure that in the end your different widgets look great, for example, on different device sizes, on different languages, on different themes. But Craig, wouldn't it be cool if we can automatically golden test that on all the different add-ons?
I think it'd be cool. Yeah.
I also think it'd be cool. And unfortunately, guys, I tricked you a bit in the beginning. When I went from the pull request, I didn't open the latest tab here. I opened an old one because I didn't want to confuse you too much with a bit more complex, with a bit more expert UI. And that's why let's go to the tab that would have opened. And that is a tab that allows us to test the widgets automatically against different add-ons. And before I spoil you too much with it, Craig, this time we're going a bit reverse. This time we're starting in code just for you, because you always like to ask me, hey, how is it built? So let's first check out how is it built, and let's then check what's the value here. So I need to comment that stuff in here again. Let's go. No, damn. So difficult to navigate here beside my
yeah, the microphone blocking visibility of the keyboard.
Do your magic.
Trust, I deal with that all the time.
No.
Wow. You are actually just starting to look like you don't know how to type.
The issue is, I told you already in private, right? I'm at a client's office here, and I'm using their setup.
Different keyboard as well.
Yeah, different keyboard, different everything.
You have to call in the cavalry.
Damn. It will not do what I tell it. It is Shift Option F7 usually. Shift Command.
Who uses Shift Option F7? What are you talking about?
Is it Shift Option 7?
For what?
for commenting.
You're supposed to have short keyboard. It's keyboard shortcuts, not keyboard long cuts. Like this isn't playing the piano, Lucas.
Nice. There we go.
Oh, you got it. All
it.
right.
I got it. So finally, it's always difficult with new setups. So what you can do here is
powered through.
Exactly. So with our cloud add-ons configs, you are allowed, or we enable you in the end, to define what are the different add-ons you'd like to automatically test your widgets on, because you do not want to test it against all your add-ons, because otherwise you are creating a bazillion snapshots that you have to go through in the end that you might not even care about. So we care about exactly, it's opt-in. So we care about German language light mode, German language dark mode, English language light mode, English language dark mode. 4 different configurations.
Okay.
And that's all you got to do, and you'll be done with it. And that's why you can see now all of your widgets in German dark, German light, English light. The new widgets here: German dark, English dark, German light, and so on. And you can also see it here in this overview.
That's pretty slick. I like it. So this is for every widget that has been opted in by the decorator. This permutates across all of them.
Yeah.
Wow. In the words of Owen Wilson, wow. That's pretty good. Pretty good.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I was going to ask you any other aspects of the demo. You said this. Okay, I don't want to.
We could talk about some more like minor things, but these are the essentials,
highlights. Yeah.
I'd say basically before I spoil everyone here already.
I'm feeling pretty spoiled for what it's worth.
Yeah, just try it yourself, guys.
There was a lot. So you know how I occasionally mute myself and then like stream for the next 10 minutes and don't notice, or don't share my screen, and I'm on like the wrong view and I'm typing and no one can see what I'm typing. So like I do these things too. So when I tease you, I deserve all the teasing as well. That said, the chat was really being as helpful as they could during the effort to uncomment.
Yeah, it's a difficult setup here, guys, but
team effort though.
Yeah, team effort. Thanks a lot for your help.
Yeah, no, I one of my favorite things about the Observable Flutter community is how helpful chat is. They're always in my corner shouting at me when I'm doing something wrong. And
that's so smart. You had the chance to see at the chat and you didn't give me any hint. You were just laughing at my shortcuts here.
Well, I mean, what was clear to me is that there was some new shortcut mapping that was not the normal one. So it's like, I agree that everything they're typing seems reasonable, but obviously those aren't it. So like, this is up to Lucas now. All right. Let's see here. Oh yeah, back when we had like 18 digits of precision, how many microns is the layout off? How many trillionths of a pixel? Oh, the inspector is great until a decorated boxboard increases the widget size by 1 pixel and your designer asks questions.
Oopsie.
Yeah, the answer to that question is get out of here. Someone asked if Widgetbook Cloud was free. Randall already answered. I haven't looked, but I'm just certain the answer is no.
Here, I'm happy to share the pricing page just transparently here. So basically, you guys can get started for free, of course. So we have it's a freemium model, and in the end, what we are charging for is monthly snapshots. Question is, what is a snapshot?
Sure is.
Great question. We answered it, of course, as well. But basically, because you're already here, no need for you guys to read it. In the end, what we already walked through is Craig basically said it. We give you golden tests out of the box. You don't need to configure anything for it. And how do golden tests work is, we are in the end taking snapshots of each and every Widgetbook use case that you configured in your Widgetbook for each and every build that you're pushing to your repository. So in the end, if I'm in my repository here and I see I just published a build here, what I'm seeing here is that we have a Widgetbook Cloud production push, and then we're going to see this Widgetbook build. In that process, when you are building, we went through it already, you are building Widgetbook on your end. We are just hosting it. In that hosting process, we are taking snapshots of each and every Widgetbook use case that you're going to see. And you can even, when you're using the Widgetbook UI, we have here two different states. We have uploading build and processing build. Uploading build, so the moment that check here is green, you can already click on visit and see it. The processing build might still be yellow, because depending on how big your Widgetbook is, we might still be busy taking the snapshots, but no worries. You can still already see your build, and that will still work. And then you will see the amount of, then basically, depending on the amount of widgets that you have, the amount of Widgetbook use cases you have in a Widgetbook, we will take exactly that amount of snapshots. And we are also transparently communicating with you how many snapshots you have in a build, because what you need to take into consideration as well, if you want to automatically test multiple add-ons for your widgets, we of course then take multiple snapshots of your use cases. So in our case, we said, okay, we want to take snapshots in different themes and different languages, right? So we had German and English, 2, and then light and dark mode, 2 again. So 4 in the end. That means 4 snapshots per use case. And going back to the pricing here is 1,000 monthly snapshots are free. So that's usually enough for your team to test Widgetbook for a week or 2. And then the moment you then feel like amazing, that's something that I would really love to use, then you basically just walk up the ladder, depending on your needs. Oh, Craig, you are muted. Sorry.
See, I don't know how to live stream either. That seems like a pretty fair price to me. All right. Randall has what is potentially the final question. Simon comes up with new widgets on every weekly show. We plop those into gists, but it sounds like they could all go into a widget book? Question mark. It seems like they could. I'm not sure if that would be the best. I'm not sure where those widgets are going or what their intended life is, but it would be a way to visualize them.
Yeah. And I mean, Randall, I'm definitely happy. I mean, if you want to have a central place that you can then just share with the entire Flutter community, I'm definitely happy to give you the Widgetbook Cloud for free for that community effort.
Just warm fuzzies all around. Well, hey, Lucas, thank you so much for coming on and illuminating us all about Widgetbook. I remember as we were hanging out in Paris after Flutter Connection 2023, you gave me the lowdown.
Oh.
Yeah, last year you gave me the lowdown of Widgetbook, and I thought that seems sweet. And now here we are, way too late. I don't know why we didn't do this then, but a lot of features have potentially been built out in the last year.
Yeah,
and man, the demo is looking strong. Yeah. Cool. Well, folks, thank you all for joining. Just like Lucas joined in front of the camera, you all joined in front of the screen, and we obviously appreciate that. Lucas, any final thoughts before we sign off?
No, I just say try it yourself. So you can just go to the website and click on try it yourself. And then basically as a call to action is try it yourself. If you have any questions, like I really mean it. We're really happy to help you. So you can always book a demo call with me. You can join our Discord server. Happy to help. I already mentioned we have around 2,000 users now on the server. So either our users help each other. We're also very happy to help with our team. So just feel free to reach out. We're happy to help.
Cool. All right, folks. I'm pretty sure I'm going to have a live stream next week as well. I don't remember if there's a guest. I had a long queue of guests ahead of me, and now I've mostly gone through that. I also had to cancel on Lucas about a month ago because I just forgot that I was going to be out of town entirely on the day that I told him he could join the stream. So, Lucas, thank you for your patience. Thank you for still coming back. And for everyone else, thanks for tuning in, and I will see you next week.
Thanks for having me, Craig. See you guys.